There are a lot of things that make Kirby games fun for everyone, but if I had to narrow down one specific thing, I would absolutely have to pick the copy abilities. From the most casual of playthroughs to the most intensive speedruns, any Kirby game that has the goods are defined by the copy ability. And before I say anything else, I do not want anybody leaving this video thinking that I am a copy ability hating pup. Quite the opposite. I love almost every ability and think they're one of, if not the, best things about the series. Freedom of expression is very important to me, and having so many different abilities to pick and choose from to express yourself is fantastic. Hi, the chef puppy's kiss. It's just bo diggity. Yes, my stream vocab is leaking its way into my videos. Real! But when looking at your average Kirby speedrun, it becomes pretty obvious that all of this ability variety and freedom of expression aren't very prevalent. You see a small handful of abilities, maybe even just one if an ability is epic enough. With Kirby speedrunning, it's a dog-eat-dog world. I've never eaten another dog. I'm not a cannibalist pup, but you know what I mean. You gotta use what's good. But is that a good thing? Never fear, dear viewers. Viewers who like the video and subscribe to the channel if they enjoy it, because both those things really help me out and I appreciate it. I'm here to help answer that question. Let's talk about Kirby speedrunning, copy abilities, and more versus less. Before diving deep though, let's quickly talk about Kirby speedrunning in a broader aspect. Specifically, since we're going fast, how do we stay going super fast? Well, there are tons of small optimizations to be made. Failing the goal game, that's my favorite of the bunch, no questions asked. But what is something that takes time to do? I already said like and subscribe, so you don't have to worry about that. Is it thanking my puptrons on Patreon? I mean, go for it if you want to, but you know I'm about to do that right now. Consider becoming a puptron yourself, by the way, for neat perks, including early access to future videos. The link is in the description below, and of course, special thanks to my head-patting Fluffle fan puptrons, Biohazard, Tyke, the serval that likes strawberry Pop-Tarts, Lydia Scribe, Vilafar, and remember, Miss K says Kirby, Kirby. I love you all. Oh, and the answer to that question before was getting an ability. Especially if you already have one, the process of ditching an ability and inhaling another, it takes a lot more time than you would think. Well, okay, that actually only takes a couple seconds, but in the context of a speedrun, it's a long time. With that, we get started with the main topic of the video. I sure am good at not doing that quickly. Let's start things off by being angry pop and talking about why having more ability variety is a bad thing for Kirby speedruns. This may come off as a surprise, but the reasons are actually fairly simple. We'll go over some specifics to explain my point, of course, but to summarize, the more abilities that you need to use, the harder it is to have consistency. To use an example, say you're running, like literally real life running. I know the fact I have to explain that because of the way I speak is something else, but you're running, your running shoes, they're in great shape. But as you're running, you find a checkpoint or something, I don't know, that's offering you even better running shoes. Maybe there's some kind of drawback to them, like they smell or something, but you're not just running in a straight line. You've got uphills, downhills, turns, that kind of stuff. You'd think just taking these new magic shoes that could like walk on water or whatever, I don't know, would be better. But you need to stop to tell the magic shoe owner friend person that you want the shoes, then you gotta take the shoes, then you gotta untie your shoes, take the shoes off, then you gotta put the new shoes on, then you tie your shoes, and then you're ready to start running. It's a weird analogy, trust me, I am aware. But if you replace running and shoes with Kirby and abilities, the shoe starts to fit. You would imagine this would only apply to the games with absurdly strong abilities, and yeah, you'd be right, because every Kirby game has absurdly strong abilities. Take Squeak Squad, for example. Wheel in this game can pretty much do whatever it wants, and while you see more abilities in Hundo, because you gotta, any percent is basically the wheel shell. For the whole run, the only other ability you use is Sword for some bosses. Which, granted, it's a lot better against them than Wheel is, but aside from, like, 3 instances, it's the Wheel show start to finish. Wouldn't the run be boring then? Far from it. Wheel being so dominant actually allows a lot of Squeak Squad specific tech to shine through. For example, in most games, if you hold a jump while you're starting to use Wheel, you get a little boost, if not better positioning for going over walls. In Squeak Squad, I don't even have to joke for how ludicrous this boost you get is. Normally, I say high jump, but with the proper timing, it's even better than high jump. What's cooler than that? Oh, how about item duplication? Like we're playing Pokemon now, but we're using bubbles instead of missing no. Basically, if you use an ability and get an item at the same time, the bottom screen will turn white. The game is just so confused about your insane gamer skills that it doesn't know what to do. But when you enter a different room, the game assumes forgive and forget, and just forget to even use your bubble in the first place. Combined with invincible candy and boss fights, remember, bosses give you chests. Wheel has nothing to worry about. On the topic of bubbles, you can even mix them for abilities like Wheel and invincible candy. Wow, how about that? Of course, even though all of these games have a lot to offer mechanically, that isn't the only appeal of using fewer abilities. In theory, you could use every ability and still see how each game is unique and cool. The appeal of not using as many abilities is how much easier and more consistent it is to pull all of this stuff off. Let's use Kirby's Adventure as an example. Surprisingly, not even any % no major glitches. I could use it as an example, yeah, with Tornado being so good, but we can go even further beyond. Let's make this an actual segue from my last point and talk about why any % UFO glitch showcases some insane tech only found in Adventure and makes it better by focusing on one ability, UFO. I'm making this point very simple. I don't want to give you all a headache for the next 10 minutes. I want your head pats for the next infinity minutes, please and thank you. But if you lose your ability on the exact frame you get hit, or if you're not epic enough, pause and exit the level on the same frame, the game can't tell if you've kept your ability or not. The game compromises by assuming you don't have one, even though you literally have one. Again, a lot more specifics to it, but this lets you keep UFO even when you exit levels or when you get hit. Granted, you can't clear the whole game with just UFO, given that it can't go down ladders. Yes, ladders of all things are the terrifying obstacle that alien technology. But the good news is that even though this UFO trick is literally frame perfect, because UFO is the only ability that you have to worry about, there's no need to practice with other abilities. Yeah, Tornado is really good, but if you have UFO, which is faster in every way, why use Tornado? Of course, there are UFO-specific tricks that you can do, such as clipping through walls and just generally speaking how strong its maximum charge attack is, encouraging you to get better at your movement, your positioning, your timing, all that stuff. And it's so much easier being able to pull it off when you don't have to worry about using Tornado and High Jump and Wheel and Burning and Hammer and, I don't know, Light. If you forgot Kirby's Adventure had Light, this is your reminder. You're welcome. The easy counter to this is, hey, these are all glitches and cheats and stuff, so they don't count. To which I say, yes, they do count and they're super cool and I love them, but they can still be intentional not glitches and apply. For example, Star Allies only sees 3 abilities be used aside from the friends you make along the way. They're replaceable. You use Bomb, Wing, and a Mennonite, and that's it. The Wing can effectively be described as Condor Head, the dash attack, but Bomb and Mennonite have a little more going on. I made a video detailing what makes Bomb so strong and good, so if you're interested, check that video out. Oh, and while you're at it though, check out this Parasol one that I just made. It's got nothing to do with Star Allies, but it's about Parasol, and I love Parasol like a lot, so if you want to make me happy, watch that video please. Thank you! Basically, with the bluster element, you can pull out a bomb and, upon contact, have it immediately explode. You can do this repeatedly to shred boss health bars. Again, watch that other video for the details, but because of piggybacking, you can actually use Wheel and Sizzle Mennonite to keep your insanely good movement, then use Bluster Bomb to destroy bosses. The Sizzle Mennonite is specifically used because Shuttle Loop is this, and Wing is used because you don't get Mennonite until you finish World 2. By using piggybacking, dream friends, and especially the ability elements, you're utilizing mechanics that are very much unique to Star Allies. Even piggybacking and the elements, they function differently enough to how they do in their own respective games to make any percent feel more unique. This also extends to modes like Guest Star Allies, Heroes in Another Dimension, even the Ultimate Choice if you're not doing ability solos. That video is coming, everyone. That video is coming. But let's go even further than game mechanics. Let's just talk about a game where the best ability is a clear winner, and it's the best game in the series. You all know what it is. It's Kirby Superstar Ultra. Jet in this game is really something else, and while there are plenty of good abilities in this game, watching an any percent run makes it clear as day that nobody does it like Jet. There's just so much that it can do between its movement, damage, utility, availability. Even the mix timing for it is pretty easy, given how close it is to the candy in the mixed roulette wheel. That's how I time it, actually, because the candy text is just so much longer than every other ability. Well, I mean, it is in the US and Japanese versions of the game. If you're being, like, real optimal and playing on the Korean version, good luck. Jet really does it all, but was it always like that? Of course not. People had to discover over time just how absurdly good it was. Unfortunately, I don't quite have the discoveries documented or cited. Almost like this isn't an essay and the term video essay is dumb, just like an editorial or something. But insane stuff like not losing Jet for this wheelie rider challenge towards the end of Great Cave, or GCO if you're cool, in Hundo. This was absolutely in the task, but thought too strict for an actual person to do. Turns out that's not the case at all. And while it does mean you don't get to do really cool yo-yo mix later on, you really get to see an ability be pushed to its absolute limit, and that in itself is fascinating. Just how absurdly good can one ability be? Here is your answer. Go nuts. Seeing how far you can push the limits of one ability is pushed to the absolute limit with Wing in the Return to Dreamland games, especially any percent. Both the original and Return Deluxe are well known for how absurd Wing is. You get Wing in the third room of the game, keep it until the Landia fight, and go ninja, go ninja, go ninja, go! For like 5 minutes. Truly, it's an iconic ability. What you may not know is that Return Deluxe makes this even crazier, allowing you to get Wing in the first room of the game due to how mixing changed between Return Wii and Return Switch. And you don't even get rid of it until... never! Ninja got nerfed more than Wing did in terms of damage output, plus Magolor and Landia are both in the air. So really, there's just like no reason to get rid of Wing as soon as you get it 10 seconds into the run. You'd think it would struggle, but no, because it's so good and you really don't want to get rid of it, runners were able to find ways to make it work no matter the cost. It's a really accessible run because of this, and while it's less exciting if you don't know much about it, the more you learn about the game, the ability, the run, the more fascinating and enjoyable it all becomes, both to watch and to play. Now that we're halfway through the video, I think this is a great time to talk about the sponsor of today's video. This video doesn't have a sponsor. So let's talk about why having more abilities in a run is a good thing. I mean, come on, why wouldn't anyone want there to be more abilities? Except for everything that we just talked about. The obvious reason why it's a good thing is that people love abilities. Of course you're gonna want to see more abilities. Yeah, Jet's cool, but you know what's even cooler? Jet and Wing and Hammer and Parasol and Fire and Cutter. But that's, you want to know something that's like even cooler than that? Jet and Wing and Hammer and Parasol and Fire and Cutter and UFO and Archer and Wheel. But even cooler, even than that, is Jet and Wing and Hammer and Parasol. There are a lot of games that I can talk about for examples. The abilities are just very fun, but I'm gonna be weird and quirky and talk about Kirby's Dream Course, the golf one. You'd be surprised how much variety there is with abilities here. And sure, some of them are a bit mandatory, let's say, but you still see a lot of creative uses out of what you're given. Part of this is because, despite this game being about golf, you do not want to get hole-in-ones. If you do get a hole-in-one, the game goes all in and letting you know just how epic you are. The hole-in-one animation plays, wow, you're so cool. Whoa, they went boom boom, do-do-do-do, and then you go zooming compared to just zooming. Abilities like Stone, Needle, and Parasol are fantastic for stopping immediately before a hole, giving you an easy hole in 2, saving a ton of time. Of course, abilities like Burning and Tornado still thrive, seeing as how they make you go fast, but what's so cool about Dream Course is that each ability has their own niche and function. Dream Course is also a very simple game with the complexities coming from how you strategize your hole-in-ones. Darn it! Sorry, I meant hole-in-twos. This is a rarity for Kirby Speedrun, spin-off or not, and the ability variety helps give you the tools you need to get the best end result possible. It's up to you to take these tools and get through the game as quickly as you can. And yes, of course, this all also applies for if you're trying to get all hole-in-ones, but honestly, having to play golf of all games, and make your main goal going fast and not getting hole-in-ones is so much funnier than it has any right to be. I say this all the time, but speedrunning is hilarious, and more people need to hurry up and realize this. Of course, love Dream Course as I do, this same logic applies to the main series games as well. Take Kirby 64 Hundo, for example. This is a category where you literally need to know how to use a lot of ability combinations, given there are so many shards to collect that require specific ones. Some of these, I'm mostly thinking about Ice plus Stone, the Ice Curler, wind up actually being really fast in their own right. As fast as Burning, let's not get too crazy here, but they still speed things up in a way that you'd only know about if you played a game with good ability variety. Some really cool combinations get to shine, and while the Melting Ice Cube really doesn't, it still showcases the coolest mechanic of Kirby 64 better than anything else could. My favorite example of this doesn't even have anything to do with movement. You see, in the final level of the game, Ripple Star 3, you fight a bunch of enemy gauntlets in a row. I like the mix-up here, not being a mini-boss gauntlet, but in any percent, you want to keep burning for a while and only end up ditching it as late as you possibly can, which kind of forces you to use Spark plus Cutter, the lightsaber. And that's super cool and all, but in Hundo, because of how the ability shards are formatted, so to speak, you get to use Burning plus Bomb, which is the fireworks. And believe it or not, the fireworks are actually much better for clearing enemies out than the lightsaber. In any percent, you're just stuck with the lightsaber because that's the way it is. It saves you time in the levels coming before it, but not in this level itself. Whereas the fireworks save time in this level, I don't know, I just think that's so cool. Ultimately, it doesn't matter too much because the fight immediately after that is your RNG fest with Miracle Matter. But for the actual level itself, Ripple Star 3, and even if only partially, it explains part of what makes speedrunning so cool. And at the end of the day, copy abilities are just fun. And if a lot of them are fun, we'll want to use them. And for the many, many people who got into the series thanks to this game, I've got good news. Even in any percent for Forgotten Land, there's ability variety in spades. Fire and Tornado are pretty dominant for sure. They're the best at moving, and the skips and tricks you can pull off with them are totally insane. You used to have to mix for Tornado in Welcome to Wanderia, so you could use Fire against Tropic Woods, but look at that! Now you use normal Kirby for Tropic Woods and just recycle Tornado, and that makes Welcome to Wanderia faster enough so that you don't have to mix anymore. That's kind of insane, actually. But other abilities see use that save some crucial time as well. I'm not even talking about Hundo, where abilities like Gigant Sword are used to shred boss health bars. Drill, for example, sees some occasional use to dig up a Maxim Tomato in Concrete Isles. But most importantly, is used to absolutely destroy bosses like Silly Dillo if you're soulless. Masked Day-to-Day as well, even a bit for the mini-boss gauntlet in the Beast Pack's final stand. The more well-known boss killer is Ice, which, thanks to this nifty feature that allows Ice to freeze bosses, can alternate between using its attack and guarding. Yeah, guarding for some reason also helps freeze, so by rapidly alternating like this, you get big damage numbers. Quick. If we're not talking any percent no HSJ, Hammer also gets to see use in absolutely breaking this game with its borked hammer jump. You skip the entirety of Battle of Blizzard Bridge thanks to this, which is actually just insane to think about. And would you believe me if I said things could get even more insane in terms of ability variety? Because they absolutely can. Notably, ability variety doesn't just extend to what's super dominant. If you have to use an ability for something and it has a small niche, it's just worth keeping until you can find something else. Big case in point, in Superstar Ultra's Milky Way Wishes Hundo, you have to... Yeah, I know. I talked about Ultra already. Doesn't mean I can't talk about it again. Come on! Is Mian the best game ever? Why are you surprised about this? Yeesh. Anyways, in Milky Way Wishes Hundo, you do have to go out of your way to collect every ability. And since you have them, why not use them? Oh, just because you already have Jet apparently means that you should never use the other abilities? Well, think again. To start with, because, of course, Parasol you get shortly before a room with water. If you float into a body of water in most Kirby games, you move up a lot faster in it. In Ultra, you move up a lot faster. And not only can Jet not float, thus missing out on this amazing opportunity, but Parasol doesn't have to worry about taking damage since it has vertical protection! Always use protection! That came out horribly wrong. There's also Fire, which you get very shortly before getting an invincible candy. Fire's dash attack, which I think has a name, but let's just say it as it is, call it Burning, goes insane with candy, actually being slightly faster than Jet, since you don't have to use the bottom screen to change abilities. There are tons of little optimizations like this with abilities you would never expect to see, and it's fantastic. That said, Milky Way Wishes is just one sub-game, a part of a category, if you will. What if you had a game with insane variety across a bunch of different modes? We already got that. Amazing Mirror, as is, winds up having a decent amount of variety in its 80%. You see Wheel, of course, but you also see Missile, and Burning, and Stone, and Sword, and Fire, and UFO, Hammer, Parasol. Watch that video I mentioned earlier about Parasol. The whole shebang. Then you have category extensions like All Sprays. Yes, I'm talking about All Sprays again. I'll keep it brief though for once, which mostly sticks to Wheel and Missile, but gets an absolute ton more use out of Sword, a little out of Stone, and who could forget the most iconic ability of all time, Mini. A category like Hundo, of course, uses every ability it possibly can to get that full unlock. And Boss Endurance, which is basically all of Smash. What do you know? There's even more ability variety now. Thanks, Boss Endurance. Despite what the Angie Pup was saying earlier, you still get to see a lot of what makes Amazing Mirror so unique despite having to learn how so many different abilities work through the nature of how these categories function. Routing out and planning your run in an open world sandbox game like this is all you need. Everything else falls in naturally, and whether you learn how quickly you can get to and beat the final boss, or see that 100% clear message, or just get the best spray paint with Mini, heck yeah! You're getting an experience only Amazing Mirror can provide with so many different abilities. And one of them is my favorite, Parasol! Yay! You wanna watch that video? Yes, you do! Now, with both arguments covered, before actually answering the question posed at the start of this video, there is a third genuine question that needs to be asked. Do Kirby speedruns even need copy abilities? Dreamland 1 is by far the most popular speed game in the series, and there are games like Air Ride that have abilities, but they basically don't matter for the most part. And some games like, I don't know, Block Ball, they have abilities, but are not at all popular speed games. So do Kirby games even need them for speedruns? The answer is boring, but technically, no, they don't. But the ones with them are still super unique, very interesting, and doesn't change the ultimate answer. You can have a Kirby game with no abilities, and it's super fun, or you can have them, and they're still fascinating and super fun. Look, I could probably talk about the Kirby Slide speedrun and have a blast talking about that sucker. I don't know what to tell you. Kirby speedruns are just cool. With that specifically said, I'm sure I don't need to tell you that the answer to do lots of abilities make Kirby speedruns worth is up to the individual. You may like a game where you use every single ability you can. You may only want one ability for ease of use. Who knows, maybe you don't want any abilities at all and NCA is your best friend. These are all acceptable answers, but if you want something more concrete, let me tell you something non-concrete at all and share my opinion. I think having more abilities is a great thing that can only do good for a game depending on the category. For something simple like any percent, I'm personally really turned off by having to learn and master a ton of abilities. If I'm going for hundo, or if the several abilities are easy to learn, then by all means, I want to use however many I possibly can. I know I said earlier that any percent for Return to Dreamland is just wing, but in the original, one-player hundo sees every ability used at some point, unless we're not talking about backup strats, then you don't see fighter. Oops. But I love that about single-player hundo. It makes everything feel so complete and whole and satisfying. Like you're really seeing everything the game wants you to see to get full 100%. If I was just trying to get to the end of a game really quickly and had to constantly change abilities because it would make me go faster or whatever, yeah, it'd become kind of a nightmare pretty quickly. And not the good Nightmare in Dreamland kind. Personally, I think the idea of the more the merrier, at least for Kirby speedruns regarding copy abilities, very specific I know, is selective. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. But what's always good is how much I appreciate you all for sticking around until the end of the video. Let me know what your answer to the question of this video was in the comments if you made it this far, and that's it. We'll have to work on more stuff. I have been Klaire, thank you all so very much for watching, and I will see you around. Bye-bye! But first, have you ever wondered what I smell like? Hey, don't click off the video, I promise this isn't anything weird. I'm just saying, if you want to know my scent, I have a candle! It is called the Vanilla Fluffle Scented Candle, and I think it came out really, really well. At the checkout, you can either decide to get a normal candle or one with a wooden wick if you like to hear that crackling sound. I don't think that's it, but that's the sound that I wanted to make in the moment. Not only is this website a trusted source, and you can have a little more Fluffle in the house, and if you use the link in the description down there, you will also be supporting me for no extra cost. Thank you very much again to Candle for this opportunity. This isn't a sponsored video or anything, I just wanted to let you guys know I have a candle now. Now, on with the video!